Hey everybody, welcome back to Body Haven Soaps. Today we are going to go over doing our orange stone bar. This is part of our new collection that we are doing called the Buff Bars. Now the Buff Bars are exfoliating bars. We have three for sure that we're coming out with to start off with. One is going to be for the feet, which we will do a video on at another date. This is going to be the one that is for grimy hands, for people that play in the garden lots or mechanics, things like that. It's to get all of that grime and stuff off of our hands and have them come clean. That's the bar that we'll make today. So in this bar, we've tried it in trial and I've given lots of samples out for people to try. It has gone over really well. People really like it. And it's designed based kind of off of that orange soap that everybody's probably heard about. Mechanics soap, some people call it. And it's kind of based off that idea. So it's got an exfoliant in it that's going to slough off dead skin, or get in there and remove that grime, whether that be dirt or oil or what have you. We are going to use essential oils in this soap that are used to cut the grease. So we're going to use that orange essential oils. We're going to use the citric essential oil base blend, just a blend that we've created because that's a natural way to clean that oil and stuff off of your skin without being in an abrasive stripper with synthetic chemicals and stuff like that. So it's based off of that natural oils like that. We are going to use some exfoliants in this soap. We are also going to use Lanolin. Now lanolin is a very good moisturizer for the skin. It actually comes from sheep's wool, so it's a natural product, but it creates a barrier, prevents the skin from drying out. It will also help to soften the hands and keep them supple and looking nice after you've been playing in the garden or what have you, okay? So that's what lanolin does. We use just a teaspoon of it. Okay, as you can see here, we're going to melt this. So I'm going to do that now while I readjust the camera down here where you can see all of the materials that I have out. Okay, perfect. So here you can see I have my blend of oils. Now I've designed and created this blend specifically for high moisturization of the skin to allow the grime and dirt to come out while it softens your hands. You'll notice it kind of looks opaque, and that is because I melted this all down yesterday and blended it together. The lye process, once we put the lye in there, we'll warm it up enough to get all of those butters broken back up again. But it's still liquid, but it's at room temperature. I don't want this to move too fast. We're using those orange essential oils and citric essential oils. It can tend to make the soap saponify fairly quickly, so I've kept it quite cool. Same with the lye. I process and dissolve this lye yesterday, and I've left it sit room temperature. Now my soap room is in my basement, so it's a little bit cooler than room temperature, 64 and 64. So they've been sitting out overnight. Okay, so they're fairly cool, and they're going to move a little bit slower for me. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is that needs a little bit longer to unthaw, or melt, sorry, unthaw. Unthaw means to freeze, by the way, so we always use that word wrong. All right, so it's going to melt, and then we will get working this stuff together and demonstrate this bar to you. All right. So we're going to take, and we are going to use, and there's one of my little spatulas here. This dish has got fairly hot, but we're going to get this in here so that it can be blended in. And like I said, I just use a teaspoon of that lanolin in this batch. And this is a 2-pound batch, which will fill these molds here. This is the shape that I'm going to do them in for the purpose of the way that I'm going to wrap them. So let's put this all together. Just gonna clean this off, and we'll get my blender going here. Okay, so use our mixer. We're gonna mix these oils together really well. kind of blend my essential oils in here. This will start to move fairly quickly, so I want to be ready with my colorants and such. I am going to do the orange and steel gray. Okay, these will be the colorants I'm using. So this is from Mad Mica Steelworks and Mad Mica Pumpkinhead. Those are the two colors that we will be using in this bar. Okay, so let's get these oils in there. I think I'm actually going to work this in without that. I'm going to stir this in because you can see how fast this is starting to move. Okay, we are going to divide this off into these two containers. So those are going to be our two colors, a gray stone looking color and a nice orange color. That smells very citrusy. All right, so now we have pumice and we have walnut shells. This is what we will be using for our exfoliating part of this bar. So we've got the really good oils for moisturizing the skin. We have the lanolin in there for the protective barrier and having that hydration, is holding that hydration in. We have our fragrance oils, which are a citrus blend that we've created for cutting the grease and oil naturally off our hands without having that harsh synthetic grease degreaser or whatever they call it. Okay, now we just need to add exfoliant and then pour these bars. Now, I haven't decided whether I want to do a swirl of these two colors. They're pretty much exactly the same except for different colors, or do I do layers? I think for today we are going to try swirls and see how that turns out. The last ones I did with layers, so I know what that's going to look like. I'm just going to grab a spoon here, okay, and open up the walnut shells. Now I like walnut shells because they're quite fine, so it's a really nice exfoliant instead of having it really harsh on the skin. But I'm going to put a scoop of walnut shells in each of these. This is also a very fine pumice. I got the fine ground pumice, so it's a little bit easier on the skin. And I'm going to put 2 scoops of pumice in each of these. Okay, and then we're just going to stir this in. Now you have to make sure this gets worked in quite well. It may get lumps in it, and that's okay. They break up fairly good. As you can see, there's a few lumps, so we just gotta keep stirring. We want the soap to get a little bit thicker before we pour it, simply to make sure that those exfoliants we put in there actually stay suspended in the bar. So we're just going to stir until there's no lumps left. And we are going to let this thicken up. Now I find once I add the pumice, sometimes it likes to speed things up, not as much as some other exfoliants, sorry. Just stir this until all those lumps are worked out. So this soap must be cooler than it was before, because it's not setting up as fast as it did before on me. So maybe I have the batter a little bit cooler, so you can see how that changes things. Just got a lump of walnut shells there. I'm gonna let this thicken up a little bit. But it's getting there. We want these to, I'm gonna do a double pour, so it'll hopefully blend and mix, but not mix color. So it's kind of the goal here. I did layered last time. I want to try the swirl this time. These are the molds we're going to use. They do have a little sunflower on the side, but they're a nice size. And having the round edge on them, it's easier to move in your hands, I find, than a flat round bar. So that's why I've chosen these. All of our buff bars will be done in these molds and wrapped and color coded according to the type of exfoliant bar that it is. All right, so we're going to take this out, and we're going to take this one out, and we're going to do that double pour. So All right, so that's kind of how those bars are going to go. Because of I find when I put exfoliants, especially pumice in there, and maybe it's from the dust or it creates it to heat up more, but I get a lot more of the soda ash on there. So I'm just going to spray this with rubbing alcohol. And as I said, these molds are a little bit, they're not as firm as I would like them. So they tend to move around a little bit. And then they kind of get a little lopsided. So I go around and I try to push that back down and even them out. But the backs are not smooth. I'll plane them off and make them nice and smooth when they're ready. So now we're just going to set these up and allow them to cure overnight, and then we'll unmold them tomorrow.